Chair Cohen invite the 3 other elected county officials as non-voting participants for subcommittee to review qualifications of persons who have expressed an interest in the interim appointment and to make a recommendation at January 14th, today's board workshop concerning the election of an interim administrator. This is the way that it reads. With that, the subcommittee put forth 4 names and 2 internal, 2 external. Now, we were out to believe when we left that room that nobody would talk about who those names were. And but unfortunately, and it's obvious by some conversations I had prior to coming in here and watching WDIO TV and having a conversation with Renee Pasal on the day after, is that the public is aware of at least 2 names. So I'm not going to repeat the names. I mean, I think that I don't think that's the correct way to go. With that, we have a task in front of us. I'm looking at, and I will recognize Commissioner Nelson in a second or 3. But just
there's a point of order, Mr. Chair.
Oh, a point of order, please. Open for a point of order. Go ahead.
Well, the question that I had is I did receive some correspondence this morning from Attorney Ford in regards to disclosure of names.
Yes.
And I was hoping to maybe get a verbal clarification of that, because I have to tell you that I was a little bit confused by it, in the sense that I thought we were looking at the finalists for the interim position here. It was, I guess I'm just looking for some clarity on that piece. So if we could ask
Commissioner Nelson, if you have a question of our attorney, please.
I don't know that what is going to be discussed here today. So I didn't know whether you were going to be discussing finalists or just discussing applicants. I think that once Commissioner Forsman sets out what happened at the subcommittee, that you might have more clarification. Should you decide to take today and say we're going to appoint an interim today, we're going to discuss the applicants, you need to be aware of that there are some data privacy issues. One is that if you're going to be employing an interim director, making that person an employee of the county, until the persons have been selected as finalists for the job, their names are private. If you decide in the subcommittee, okay, we're going to make this an employment position, and we're going to consider 2 people, then those people are finalists and their names can be divulged. On the other hand,
C and D, whatever. I think that's the correct way to do it. I realize the public may already know everything about it because apparently there was a leak out of the subcommittee that shouldn't have been. I can tell you it wasn't me. But since there was that leak, I think we should be talking about A, B, and C until such is determined, and then by the end of the day, maybe we can have a name or names out there for the public. Commissioner Nelson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Getting back to the order, I understand better now the communication that we received, but my question then would go to, obviously in the board workshop setting, this board cannot take any action.
We can make a recommendation.
We can make a recommendation or a consensus from this setting. So the question then is, as we narrow, it was my understanding when we went into that setting, the subcommittee setting, that we would be coming back to us with finalists. And I guess that was just my understanding. Worried about that piece of it. At what point, and maybe this is a good question of the attorney, at what point would we call it 2 finalists? Would it be at the point where we were narrowed it down to 2 people that would be finalists, or how would that, in your mind, how would that be?
Attorney Ford.
in my mind, when you've made the decision on how you're going to proceed and you've got names in your closing application process and so forth, and you're saying nobody else is going to be considered, and these are the people we want to consider, I would say then, if it's 2 people or 1 person, that would be a finalist. When you're at the point where you're going to make a decision between 1 or more persons.
And I guess to follow up on that question, the subcommittee is truly not the board who will be making the selection, and this workshop is not the board. Even though we are the board, we are not acting in the capacity of the board. Would I be correct in assuming that until we act as a board on, let's say that and I don't really have I guess I don't know where this is going to end up today, but let's say that we came out with candidate C, candidate D, or whatever as the finalist. And this board workshop is not, I guess the question is, can they be considered a finalist until tomorrow at a board meeting if the board chose that person as a finalist?
I think that's up to the consensus of the board.
Okay. And I guess I'm going to, my opinion, and that using those thoughts is that I think that until we act as a board tomorrow, I think that all names should be A, B, C, D. It's pretty obvious that the public is going to have a very strong feeling of who or what candidates are candidates. But the thing is that I think we should be very careful. I think we should be extremely careful that even though the public trust or the data privacy has already been breached, I think I've told everybody that's heard that I'm extremely upset about it, but at the same time it has been breached. Having that been breached there, I think we still should follow all of the proper rules and do this the right way. And with that, I guess I'm going to take a look at this. In the past, we have called on the chair of central management and intergovernmental, the chair of this type of committee. And I'm going to, and all I'm going to do is say that I'm willing to do it. I don't want to do it, but I will do it because you elected me chair. But if you wish, Commissioner Fink, I offer that if you wish to do it. Otherwise, I will continue to run the meeting. Your choice.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I got to tell you, I did not come prepared to run the meeting. However, I suspect with a moment of thought, we probably can figure out how to make this go in the direction that you have suggested, as well as with the understandings that you have put forth at this particular meeting. So I suspect that we can probably do that.
If you just to relay my thoughts there, so that they're out there, is that in a conversation that I had with Commissioner Crone, I thought that and he's the only one I've talked to about it. I thought in the past we've used that nominal.
Yes, we have.
And we had the board out and stuff like that. And I think we've used it many, many times in the past. Commissioner Cronin's comment on that struck me as the right thing to do possibly, but I'm open to almost anything that the board would be willing to do there. But I just put that out there, and I
can do that. I have a piece on that, as you probably know.
With yellow dots and crayons in there. I'm kidding. I'm only kidding. Commissioner Fink, if you wish, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I will continue.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and board members, the committee met on Thursday of last week in the afternoon. All 6 members were present sometime during the course of the day. We had a very passionate discussion about what our role was, how that role was to be developed, and where we might go in this particular meeting. This particular meeting will have a single agenda, but will have several options for us to determine where we're going to go. The committee decided at the end of the day that there were 2 possibilities for us to proceed. The first possibility was that several names had already been submitted by the time that meeting had occurred, and that would be perhaps sufficient, given that the meeting was supposed to be handled either on Thursday or Friday, that anything that occurred between then and Friday may very well be sufficient for us to make a selection. Those names were identified, data was collected. To the extent that data was not available, was collected, and I gather that is in the package today. The second option was that there was a longer process that needed to be taken place, that perhaps since there was some interest from outside of the county, that we might want to make sure that we were clear on all of that interest that might be out there, and how would you go about doing that if in fact you were going to do it. And I did, as Commissioner Nelson, or Commissioner Forsman suggested, have a process in mind.